I found out I was my boyfriend's plan B when he messed up my name while texting his mistress. My revenge? He'll never forget it. I never thought I'd be here sharing something so personal, but I need to vent and maybe get some advice. This story happened over the last 2 years of my life, and only now do I feel ready to tell it. It's long, so brace yourselves. I met Ryan 3 years ago when we both started working at the same digital marketing company in Chicago. I had just gotten out of a 5-year relationship that ended when I discovered infidelity. I was vulnerable, but determined to focus only on my career. Ryan was charming, intelligent, and seemed different from the other guys at the office. He wasn't the type to show off in meetings or try to impress the bosses at all costs. He was quiet, observant, but when he spoke, everyone paid attention. We worked in different departments, me in design and him in sales, so our interactions were limited to occasional coffee breaks and lunches. Our friendship grew naturally. We discovered we lived relatively close to each other and started taking the train together at the end of the workday. Those 30-minute trips became my favorite part of the day. We talked about everything: work, movies, books, dreams, fears. We had many common interests, and when we disagreed on something, it was always a respectful and stimulating discussion. It took me 6 months to admit to myself that I was falling in love, and 2 more to realize that he seemed interested too. The glances lasted a little longer. The good mornings came with wider smiles, and our knees would accidentally touch during lunch. It was on a rainy Friday that everything changed. We went out for happy hour with colleagues, and at the end of the night, when everyone had already left, we were alone waiting for the rain to pass. He offered me a ride home since the storm showed no signs of letting up. In the car, listening to Radiohead, a band we both loved, he held my hand while driving. When we arrived at my building, we kissed for the first time. The following months were like a dream. Ryan was attentive, respectful, and seemed to really care about me. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe in a relationship. After 8 months of dating, we decided to live together. It was a decision made with a lot of dialogue and planning. We rented a small but cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood. We furnished our home with carefully chosen furniture, some inherited from my grandmother, others bought at antique fairs we loved to visit on weekends. Our routine was simple but made me happy. We woke up early, had coffee together before going to work, messaged each other during the day, and at night cooked together while talking about our day. On weekends, we explored the city, visited exhibitions, or simply stayed home binge-watching series. I was happier than I had ever been. The first year of living together was smooth. Of course, we had our discussions, mainly about dividing household chores and finances, but we always managed to resolve them through dialogue. However, at the beginning of the second year, I began to notice small changes in Ryan's behavior. He started spending more time on his phone, always with the screen turned away from me. When I approached, he quickly locked the screen or switched apps. At first, I didn't give it much importance. After all, we all have the right to privacy, and I didn't want to be the controlling type of girlfriend. But then came the delays. Ryan, who always arrived home around 7 p.m., started showing up later and later, sometimes after 10 p.m. The explanations were always the same: last-minute meetings, traffic, happy hour with clients. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I trusted him completely. Messages during the day also decreased. Before, he always sent me an affectionate text in the middle of the morning or a funny photo he had seen. Now, I would go the entire day without news. And when I asked if everything was okay, I received short and dry responses. Our intimacy also changed. The good morning kisses became quick and mechanical. Sex, which was previously frequent and full of affection, now happened less and less. And when it did, it seemed like he was just fulfilling an obligation. I tried to talk about this a few times. I asked if something was wrong, if he was stressed at work, if I had done something that bothered him. The answers were always evasive. I'm tired. It's just a phase. You're seeing things where they don't exist. But the most significant change was in how he talked about our relationship. Before, he liked to make plans for the future. Trips we would take, the house we would buy one day, even names of children we would like to have. Now, any mention of the future was met with silence or a change of subject. The breaking point came on a Friday night. I had left work early to prepare a special dinner. It was our 2-year anniversary. I had planned everything: his favorite dish, a wine he loved. I even bought tickets for a concert happening the following month for a band he always wanted to see live. I waited and waited and waited some more. At 10 p.m., when the food was already cold and the wine half gone, yes, I started drinking alone, I received a message: "I'll be home late. Don't wait up for me." No explanation, no apology, nothing about our anniversary. I tried calling, but he didn't answer. I sent messages asking where he was, if everything was okay, reminding him that it was a special date for us. Nothing. Ryan arrived home at 2 a.m., smelling of alcohol and women's perfume. I was awake, sitting on the living room couch with eyes swollen from crying so much. The argument started as soon as he walked in. I asked where he had been. who he was with, why he hadn't at least let me know he wouldn't be coming for the dinner I had prepared with so much care. He became defensive, said I was being dramatic, that he had gone out with work colleagues and lost track of time. "What's that perfume?" I asked. "Must be from Amanda. She gave me a goodbye hug," he replied, referring to a colleague from the sales department. "And you didn't see my messages? Didn't remember that today was our dating anniversary?" That's when he dropped the bomb. "Not everyone cares about these silly commemorative dates. You've always been much more invested in this relationship than I have." That hit me like a punch to the stomach. "What do you mean by that?" "Nothing," he replied, trying to dodge. "I'm tired. Let's go to sleep." But I wasn't going to let that slide. I insisted. The discussion got more heated. He started throwing in my face small frustrations he had never mentioned before. That I talked too much, that my family was intrusive, that my friends were annoying, and then, at the height of the argument, when I said that maybe we should rethink our relationship, he blurted out, "I always knew you were my plan B anyway." The silence that followed was deafening. He realized what he had said and tried to backtrack immediately. "That's not what I meant. I'm drunk. I'm not thinking straight." But the damage was already done. I asked him to sleep on the couch that night. I needed to be alone. The next day, Ryan left early to go for a run, something he never did on weekends. I took the opportunity to think, what did he mean by plan B? Was there someone else? Some other relationship that didn't work out, and I was the second choice? Curiosity and fear were consuming me. I did something I had never done before and that I'm not proud of. I looked at his phone. He had left in such a hurry that he forgot to take it. The device was locked, but I knew the password. It was his mother's birth date, something he used for everything. What I found shocked me. There was a long exchange of messages with someone saved as AT. The conversations were intimate, romantic, explicit at times. By the chronology, they started shortly before the behavior changes I noticed almost a year ago. Scrolling up further, I discovered that AT was Allison Thompson, his ex-girlfriend from college. Apparently, they reconnected at a business fair and resumed contact. The initial messages were casual but quickly evolved into flirting, and eventually something more. One message in particular caught my attention. It was from Ryan to Allison, dated 3 months ago. "We've talked about this 1,000 times, Allie. I'm with Amy now. I can't just break up out of nowhere. She doesn't deserve that. I need time to do it right. You've always been my true love. You know that. But I need to be sure that this time it will work between us before I change my whole life. Please be patient. My name isn't even Amy. My name is Heather." He got his own girlfriend's name wrong in a message to his mistress. I kept reading. The following messages were Allison complaining that she was tired of being his dirty secret, that she deserved more than scraps of attention, and him responding that he had a plan, that soon he would be free to be with her openly, that she was his plan A, and always had been. My stomach turned. The pieces fit together. I was the plan B, the security, the stability, while he decided if it was worth risking everything for Allison. I took photos of all the compromising conversations and sent them to my own phone. Then I put his phone back exactly where it was. When Ryan returned, I acted normally. I said I was hungover from the night before and preferred not to discuss further. He seemed relieved. That night, while he slept, I devised a plan. It wouldn't be a flashy or dramatic revenge. It would be silent, calculated, and above all, dignified. First, I needed financial security. I already had my own bank account and a good job, but our apartment was in both our names, and we had several shared expenses. In the following days, I began to discreetly separate my finances. I opened a new account at another bank, transferred my savings, and started keeping all the receipts for expenses I paid alone. Meanwhile, I acted as if nothing had happened. I continued to be the attentive and loving girlfriend I had always been. In fact, I even intensified my displays of affection. I prepared his favorite dinners, praised his achievements at work, showed interest in his hobbies. Ryan found it strange at first, probably expecting me to still be upset about the anniversary argument, but he soon got used to it and relaxed, thinking the storm had passed. The second step was professional. There was an open position for a management role in the company's branch in Denver. It was an excellent growth opportunity, something I had already been considering even before this crisis. Now I had one more reason to pursue this new challenge: distance. I updated my resume, prepared my portfolio, and applied for the position without telling anyone, not even my closest friends. I wanted to avoid Ryan finding out by accident. The selection process was intense. 3 interviews, a practical case, and a presentation to the board. I did everything remotely, using my lunch hour or inventing medical appointments to participate in the stages. Meanwhile, I continued to discreetly monitor the conversations between Ryan and Allison. They were planning a weekend together at a beach resort, a month from now. Ryan would invent a business trip for me. The timing couldn't be more perfect. The third step was finding a new place to live. I researched apartments in Denver, virtually at first, and then took advantage of a long weekend to visit the city. I told Ryan I was visiting a sick cousin in Indianapolis, a nearby city. During this visit, I managed to rent a small, well-located apartment close to the new office. I paid 3 months' deposit to secure the place and sorted out all the bureaucratic details. When I returned to Chicago, I received the news I had been waiting for. The position was mine. They would have given me a month to make the transition, but I asked to move up the timeline. I wanted it to coincide with Ryan's business trip. The fourth and final step was emotional. I needed to prepare for the breakup. I started online therapy, something I could easily hide as a work meeting. I also intensified my exercise routine, not only to release stress, but to feel physically stronger. And then, finally, the day arrived. Ryan announced his business trip 2 weeks in advance. He pretended reluctance, said he hated having to travel on that particular weekend, but that it was an important opportunity for his career. He acted well, I have to admit. "What a shame, honey," I replied with my best understanding smile. "But don't worry, I'll use the time to catch up on some reading, maybe invite some friends over for dinner." In reality, I had already scheduled the move for that exact weekend. A moving company would come on Friday, as soon as Ryan left for the airport, or rather, to pick up Allison and head to the beach, and would take all my belongings to Denver. I would follow by plane on Saturday. During the 2 weeks of preparation, I carefully sorted through my belongings. I donated clothes I no longer wore, books I had already read, objects that had no sentimental value. I wanted to start light in the new city, without carrying unnecessary weight from the past. I also digitized important documents and stored them in a secure drive. I returned borrowed books, paid pending debts, discreetly said goodbye to neighbors and close friends, inventing a story about visiting my parents for a few weeks. On the eve of Ryan's departure, we had a normal night. We had dinner, watched a movie, talked about trivial matters. He seemed a bit nervous, checking his phone more frequently than usual, probably finalizing details with Allison. When we went to bed, he hugged me tightly and said, "I'm going to miss you these days." I replied honestly, "I'll miss you too." After all, despite everything, I still loved the person I thought he was. The next morning, I helped him pack. I carefully placed his favorite clothes, including that blue shirt that Allison praised so much in the messages. He kissed me at the door, promised to call as soon as he arrived, and left. As soon as the car disappeared around the corner, I sprang into action. I called the moving company confirming the time, finished packing the last boxes, and took down the photos of us that still remained on the walls. The movers arrived punctually. In 3 hours, everything that was mine was packed and on its way to Denver. The apartment looked strange, with empty spaces where my books, my plants, my pictures used to be. I left 3 things on the dining table: my apartment key, a printed copy of all the conversations between him and Allison, and a letter. In the letter, there were no insults or dramatic accusations. It was simple and direct. "Ryan, by the time you read this letter, I will already be in another city, starting a new phase of my life. I discovered about you and Allison some time ago, but decided not to confront you immediately. I preferred to use this time to reorganize myself and plan my exit in the most dignified way possible. You called me Plan B during our anniversary argument. At the time, I didn't understand, but now it all makes sense. The evidence is attached, in case you want to deny it. I won't wish you happiness with her because, honestly, I don't care anymore. What I do wish is that one day you understand the value of honesty and respect in a relationship. I've already taken care of my part in terminating the lease. My lawyer will contact you to settle the remaining details. Goodbye, Heather." And so, I left that apartment for the last time, without looking back. I spent that night in a hotel near the airport. I couldn't sleep well, alternating between moments of relief for finally taking action and crying fits, thinking about everything that had happened. In the morning, I boarded the flight to Denver with just a carry-on containing the essentials. When the plane took off, I felt a mix of sadness and freedom that's hard to explain. In my new apartment, the moving boxes were waiting, stacked. I spent the weekend organizing the space, assembling furniture, trying to create an environment that was just mine. On Sunday night, I finally turned on my phone. There were dozens of missed calls and messages from Ryan. The first ones were casual, pretending he was in a business hotel, sending photos of a view he had probably taken from the internet. Then, when I assumed he returned to the apartment and found my letter, the tone changed completely. There were messages of surprise, anger, desperate apologies, accusations, "You invaded my privacy," and finally, "Please." He begged for a chance to explain, said he had made a mistake, that he actually loved me and Allison meant nothing. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I blocked his number and social media. I did the same with mutual contacts who could serve as a bridge between us. Not out of fear of giving in, but because I wanted a clean break. The beginning in Denver was difficult. Being in a new city with a new position, without my usual support network, all while processing the traumatic end of a years-long relationship, it wasn't easy, but each day got a little better. My new colleagues were welcoming. The city, with its different climate and pace from Chicago, gradually became familiar. I started exploring the parks on weekends, frequenting local cafes, creating a new routine. Therapy continued to be fundamental. With professional help, I managed to process not only the betrayal and the breakup, but deeper issues. Why did I ignore the signs? Why did I allow myself to be treated as a secondary option? What did this say about my self-esteem and my relationship patterns? 3 months after the move, I received an email from a mutual friend, Danielle. She told me that Ryan was destroyed, that he had broken up with Allison a week after I left, and that since then he had been trying to find me. She asked if I would like to talk to him to give him a chance to explain his side. I replied thanking her for her concern but making it clear that that chapter was closed for me. There was nothing more to be said or explained. Over time, news about Ryan diminished. I heard that he had moved to Seattle, accepting a position at another company. I internally wished that he had learned something from this whole experience. As for me, the new job proved challenging and rewarding. I made new friendships, some superficial, others that promised to become deep. I began to feel part of the local community. 1 year after the move, I met Daniel at a photography course I decided to take to occupy my Saturdays. He was a history teacher at a local school, passionate about literature and travel. We grew closer slowly, first as friends who shared interests, then as something more. I was honest with him about my past, about the scars I still carried. Daniel was patient, respecting my time and my space. He didn't try to erase my experiences or minimize my pain. Instead, he helped me integrate them into the person I was becoming. 2 years after leaving Chicago, I received a promotion to creative director of the Denver branch. In the same month, Daniel and I decided to live together. We chose a larger apartment near a park where we liked to run, and decorated it together, creating a space that reflected our relationship, respectful, balanced, genuine. Sometimes I still think about Ryan and how it all ended, not with anger or resentment, but with a kind of distant gratitude. That painful experience taught me valuable lessons about my own limits, about the kind of love I deserve, and about my ability to start over. If there's one thing I learned from this whole experience, it's that our dignity isn't in what others do to us, but in how we respond to it. Ryan treated me as a secondary option, a consolation prize while he waited for his chance with who he really wanted. I could have reacted with scandal, with destructive revenge, or worse, accepting scraps of affection out of fear of loneliness. Instead, I chose to value myself. I used the pain as fuel for changes that were already maturing within me. The pursuit of professional growth, the courage to change cities, the determination to rebuild my life on new terms. Some people might think that my silent exit wasn't revenge enough, that I should have confronted Ryan and Allison face to face, exposed the betrayal to friends and family, caused the same kind of pain I felt. But for me, the true revenge was reclaiming my power and moving forward. It was showing, with actions and not words, that I was not and never was a plan B, that I am the protagonist of my own story. The last time I had indirect news about Ryan, I heard that he had tried to get back together with Allison after I left, but she was already involved with someone else. Apparently, while he was trying to decide between the two of us, she also had a plan B. Ironic, isn't it? Today, looking back, I see that version of myself, shocked, hurt, secretly planning a new life with compassion and pride. She did what needed to be done to protect herself and grow. And looking forward, I see a future built not on the fear of being abandoned or betrayed again, but on the confidence that, whatever happens, I will know how to rise and start again. Not as someone's contingency plan, but as the one and irreplaceable protagonist of my own journey. Have you ever been someone's plan B? What would you do in my place? Share your story in the comments.